It was, quite simply, in the Ullevi Stadium in Gothenburg, Sweden, 41 years ago this very evening, Aberdeen Football Club's greatest victory. They wrote their own piece of history after beating the mighty Real Madrid 2-1 to win the 1983 Cup Winners' Cup. 14,000 hearty Dons fans made the trip to the Ullevi Stadium in Sweden to witness what is and will probably remain our greatest ever victory. Goals from Eric Black and John Hewitt will simply never ever be forgotten. 41 years ago this very evening. This show is brought to you by Saltire Energy, who are delighted to announce an extended partnership with Scottish Rugby, which will see them continue their support of international match days for the Scotland men's team. And members of Craig International's Houston team join tens of thousands of industry leaders from 90 plus countries at the OTC this past week. With one of their largest offices located in Houston, Craig International had plenty of staff to cover the event, which means those back home in Scotland had to miss out on the annual pilgrimage. I hope you all had a very productive time at the event. As well as looking back at Gothenburg, we're also going to be looking ahead to tomorrow's big game against Hibs at Easter Road. And it makes it that all a little bit more interesting after today's results. Aberdeen against Hibs will kick off at 3 o'clock in the capital city. Hi everybody, how are you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Saturday night. It's a very special day in the club's history. It's the best of days, if I'm being honest. It is, of course, Gothenburg today. So today, we have a very special tribute show to Gothenburg. We've got lots on the programme tonight. It's going to be an absolutely bumper programme. And obviously, we're going to be looking ahead to the Hibs game as well. So the idea behind the show is for you guys to get in touch, leave your comments, reminisce about our greatest night, and of course, let us know how you think tomorrow's game in Edinburgh will go as well. I've got two very special guests on tonight. Making her debut is former Aberdeen women's team captain, Kelly Forrest. Kelly's going to be joining us to talk about the Hibs game and a little bit about the women's team, because obviously this week the news that Clint Lancaster is leaving the club after only 1 year in charge. And then a little bit later, and I'm so excited to bring you this, Eric Black has done a Cup Winners' Cup final quick fire question and answer session. It's hilariously funny, and I really hope you can stick around to watch it. So if you enjoy tonight's show, don't forget to press the old like button. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, costs absolutely nothing. I'd be delighted if you would jump on board. The aim tonight is to try and get to 3,550 subscribers. We are 11 away from doing that. Let's see if we can achieve it in the next hour or so, because I think tonight's show will roughly be about an hour. So what I shall do is we shall concentrate first and foremost on the Hibs game. So let me just clear the timeline and bring in a couple of bits and pieces for you that I wanted to show you. Because obviously after today's results, the league table has slightly changed, because I must admit, I was not expecting the results that came in today. We're also going to try and predict the team news ahead of tomorrow's game. So just let me find that. There it is. And then we'll get Kelly in just there. So let me bring Kelly in. There she is. Right, so let's have a quick look at the league table just to remind ourselves where we are after today's games. So Livingston, surprisingly, beat St Johnstone. And Motherwell absolutely thrashed Ross County 5-1 up in Dingwall. So this is what it means. It means that we've basically dropped down a notch because Motherwell have jumped up into 7th. But tomorrow, with a win, we can obviously go above Hibs and above Motherwell and sit at the top of the bottom 6. That's what Peter Leven has asked for. That is what we shall be aiming for tomorrow. So let's try and predict the team news ahead of tomorrow. And I've got to be honest, I think Peter, who will be back in the dugout, which is great news, I think he will stick with the same team that started last week. So that's basically what I think he will do. Same back four. Connor Barron, and I think Dante will start. I don't think there's a lot of talk about the skipper coming back in to start, but I think Shinza will find himself back on the bench. I expect Junior to start on the left, Leighton just in that hole, Jamie McGrath just out on the right hand side, and Bojan up top. Bojan on 15 league goals so far this season, 25 in total. So, before we get into all the nitty gritty, let's welcome Kelly Forrest to Ali Beg ABTV. I was absolutely delighted that she came on. We spoke from our home in Aberdeen a couple of days ago, and we talked about tomorrow's game against Hibs, and we spoke about the progression of the women's team as well. But to begin with, I had to ask her about the news about Clint Lancaster leaving. Welcome to the show, Kelly Forrest. Hi Kelly, how you doing? Thank you so much for jumping on. It's lovely to see you, and thank you for making your debut on Ali Beg ABTV. I want to jump straight in, and I want to begin with the news that obviously broke these past few days about Clint leaving the Aberdeen women's team as their manager. First and foremost, did it come as a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, I think it did actually. I think, typically looking at it on paper, he's been there one season. You would expect, a manager to, put their mark on the team and then want to progress it into the following season. So in that respect, yeah, it's definitely come as a surprise. I think he's done really well with the girls. I think, albeit, they haven't reached top six, but I think based on the squad that he's had and the players that he's brought in, he has created something that could be taken forward. So yeah, it is a shock in that respect, definitely.
Have you seen the progression under him?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, I've met Clint a couple of times, very personable character, interviews, comes across really well, very vocal. I think he's got a really good rapport with the team. It certainly seems that way. He's picked up from potentially quite a disruptive season last season, and he's grown the squad. He's obviously had links from down south, bringing players up, which I think has been really important. I think at the start of the season they struggled a bit with injuries, so he managed to fill those gaps pretty quickly and well. Actually, he's brought in a great number of players, a great few players from down south. Particularly Jen Curry in goal, she's been fantastic, and I think that's a really important position in the women's league.
I guess going forward, Clint has left a really good foundation to build on for whoever comes in next.
Yeah, I would like to think so. It's certainly there. It's certainly in place. He's got a good squad. How much they're able to retain with his exit, I'm unsure of.
Mm,
But as it stands and the players on paper that are down, yeah, I think there's more to come from them. I think even over the years, with them being a young team, you've got then the potential to grow them further. We've seen that over the previous seasons, young players coming through and now actually being relied on as probably, the ones that are now looked up to. So, yeah, absolutely, there's a foundation there for someone to come in and fill.
Okay, let's talk about the men's team. Obviously playing Hibs on Sunday. First of all, just let me ask you about your thoughts about the season so far. It's been a bit, thank God, we've managed to save ourselves and we've secured our Premiership status again. But it's not been the prettiest, has it?
Nah, I don't think so. And I think that just shows credit to the club and the expectations of the fans and the club. There's high expectations on Aberdeen Football Club,
Hmm.
and I think that's adds to the disappointment in not finishing top six.
Yeah.
It's been really sticky. It's been stop start. I think in any situation in life, if you've got that much change, there's going to be disruption, right? So, in my opinion, it's been difficult for the players as well. I've been in that position where you've had a lot of change behind the scenes, and I think this latter half of the season, the last few games, they've actually had that bit of structure and done very well. And the momentum off the Scottish Cup, albeit a loss, it was a
Hmm.
good performance, and
Hmm.
it's been narrow defeats as well.
Yeah.
Early on in the season, but now turning into narrow wins, and I think that's what it doesn't really matter. Really, it's 3 points at the end of the day.
So to the game itself, obviously Hibs are not in great form at the moment. Aberdeen have the perfect opportunity to go above them. So how do you see the game playing out?
Yeah, I think I'll always say this about Hibs and Aberdeen. It's always a close encounter.
Mm,
I expect there's usually a big turning point in these games for me, whether it's a sending off, a penalty, a contentious decision.
yeah,
So, you know, usually it's the team on form that comes out best, which seems obvious, but that because it's always so close between them, I think momentum from previous games really gives the team confidence going into that. Or yeah, as I say, there's a big moment in the game
mm,
that sways things, and as you say, it's actually a very big game with respect to that seventh position, isn't it? So
yeah,
Hibs are 1 point clear, I think, and
yeah.
opportunity to make that gap bigger or for Aberdeen to jump them. So yeah, all eyes on that game for sure.
Brilliant. Kelly, thank you so much. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on. And I know you're off on your holiday, so have a fantastic time. And hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you. Bye bye.
Bye.
So this is what Peter had to say. We want to win every game, even though we're safe. I've still put that pressure on them. I want to finish seventh. Last Saturday, we could have scored a few goals, which would have been lovely, but I'm really pleased the players have bought into it. We know that Hibs can cause problems. They're a good team. That front four or five can cause any team problems with their individual players, with their speed and their ability. Hibs are a team that can hurt you. So we need to be on our game on Sunday. Here's the pick of the stats for you. So Hibs are unbeaten in 5 league meetings with the Dons, keeping 4 clean sheets and scoring 12 goals during this time. Aberdeen have lost 5 of their last 6 league visits to Easter Road, drawing the other, including our last 3. The Dons are unbeaten in 6 league games, winning their last 2. The Dons have also kept a clean sheet in their last 4 league games, which is the longest run since April 2023. The referee for the game is Grant Irvin, and on VAR is Andrew Dallas. So there we go. So let's have a quick look and see how you guys are all doing. So what we'll do is we'll just open it up and then we shall get right into it. So Kaiser came on first of all. Hi Kaiser, how are you doing? He says, can he bide the night, but happy 11th of May, everybody. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, good evening, fellow dandies. Happy Gothenburg Day. A win tomorrow to top off the weekend. I'm going down off to the pub for a celebration pint. Come on, you Reds. 41 years and very proud of our team. Gavin Wilson has said, sun is shining to celebrate AFC's greatest victory. The Aurora is waiting to bedazzle an end to the celebration with a celestial display. And I can hear my mother singing the Northern Lights. Brilliant. How spectacular was that, by the way? Have you seen former Aberdeen employee Glenn Cairns? He's a videographer. Have you seen his post on X where he sent a drone up over Pataudry while the Northern Lights were in full shining light? Have you seen it? If you haven't seen it, go and have a look at it. It's one of the most magnificent scenes I've ever seen. Glenn Cairns on X. Take a look. It will blow your mind. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, when I get to the bar, I will raise a glass to still the only Scottish club with 2 European trophies. Duncan Wright is here. Hi Duncan, how you doing? Northern Lights in full bloom. A song in Eurovision Song Contest being sung by a guy from Latvia called Dons. Hope you're having a great Gothenburg Day, everybody. Stand free, he says. Paul Donaldson is here. Hi, Paul. He says, good evening, everybody. Happy Gothenburg Day. And well done to the 18s on winning the league title. Here, here. What a fantastic achievement. Barry Cool is here saying, good evening, dandies. He remembers Gothenburg like it was yesterday. Suze is also on. She's wishing everyone a good evening. Suze is a brand new member on Ali Beg ABTV. So, Suze, can you do me a favour? Can you get in touch? Can you message me so that I can talk to you privately, please? Thank you so much for signing up to the membership scheme. Richard Mickey McMillan has said, stand free wherever you may be. Yeah, Paul, thank you. He's just reiterating that post about Glenn Cairns' photography. It is. The musical box says, "Hey guys, 41 years ago. Damn, I must be getting old, aren't we all, mate?" Paul Donaldson saying Ross County will be hugely relieved that Livingston got a couple of late goals today. What a win that was for them, dearie me. Only their 5th win of the league campaign as well. Gavin Wilson has said the best goal that never was, Black's goal, was brilliant. Hewitt's was amazing, but that Black shot off the crossbar, I thought that was our best chance, but then 2-1. We talk about it a little bit later. Can't wait to bring it to you. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. John Grant is here. Hi, John. He's saying happy Gothenburg days. I hope we can get the result tomorrow. Would like to see Sokla get a start with Bojan. Barry Cooler said, I think Jamie McGrath is wasted in his position. Rob Clark is here. Hi, Rob. How are you, fella? He says, hi, Ali and all Gothenburg groupies. Just noticed that tomorrow's match against Hibs, is it strange that 41 years ago, after winning the Cup Winners' Cup, Aberdeen played at home against Hibs? We did, and we thrashed them 5-0, I think, if my memory serves me correct. Paul Donaldson is just reminding everybody that the under-18s match against Celtic on Monday evening has been moved to Pittodrie. £5 entry for adults and free for anybody under 16. Won't manage, but hopefully they'll get a decent crowd. 7 p.m. kickoff. Let's see where else we are. Stuart Malcolm is saying, good evening, dandies, from a lovely sunny Forest. 3-1 the Dons tomorrow. Kevin Thomas says, come on, you Reds. Right. Lots more comments to come in, but I think it's about time that we turned our attentions to Gothenburg.
Weir. That's a good ball from Peter Weir. And now Aberdeen with McGee making the break and Hewitt waiting in the middle. Hewitt.
Shall we just remind ourselves again, why the devil not? Aberdeen 2, Real Madrid 1. Let it sink in. Goals from Eric Black and John Hewitt. It's a night, a moment, a time in history that I think will never, ever be forgotten by any Aberdeen fan who was lucky enough to be there or be in and around the city during that time. It was absolutely astonishing. I've got some home footage. So I know that some of you have already seen this home footage, but for those of you who haven't, I've got some home footage, which I'm going to bring to you a little bit later. So the story behind it is my late father, organised a number of charter airline trips to take fans over to Gothenburg. So my father worked for a very small aviation company, charter aviation company, out of Aberdeen Airport back in 1983, and he helped organise many of the flights. And what he did was he took his old Cine camera with him. Do you remember the old Cine cameras? My God. The only thing that I'm devastated about with the footage is, one, there's no sound, and two, my father is nowhere to be seen. And I have no footage of my father whatsoever, which, as you can imagine, I'm absolutely devastated about. I have nothing of him, absolutely nothing, not even from a phone camera or anything like that. So he shot it all himself, inside the aeroplane, going into the city centre with the fans. I'll bring it to you a little bit later. I think you'll really enjoy it. But I think what we'll do is we'll kick off this section by bringing you Eric Black's quickfire question and answer session. It's all about the Cup Winners' Cup final. It's nearly 11 minutes long. I really hope you enjoy it because, honestly, I giggled like a schoolgirl all the way through it. I really hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the show, Eric Black. Hi, Eric. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on again. Right, I hope you're ready for your Gothenburg quickfire question and answer session. First question. Who did you sit beside on the plane going to Gothenburg?
Well, I sat next to Brian Gunn. I remember sitting with Alex, Simi, and a few others because Simi must have eaten about 4 bacon rolls before we got on the plane, as he would, being from Newmarket. So he ate about 4 bacon rolls, but I sat next to Big Ben on the plane. That I remember pretty well.
What was the pre-match meal?
Well, it tended to be a kind of standard at that point. We had chicken. It used to be a bit of chicken. Sometimes it was breaded, which was a little bit of an extra, you know. We're moving up like here at that point. And then a little bit of ice cream to finish. So that was
Really?
believe it or not, I'm not sure that dietitians now would be jumping all over that, but it tended to be just about every time I played. I had a bit of chicken with a little bit of breadcrumb and a little bit of ice cream, and then I'm ready to go.
What flavour ice cream?
Always vanilla.
Always
standard,
vanilla.
you know. Yeah, always vanilla, you know. Didn't want to upset my little stomach.
Who did you room with in the Fars Hat Hotel?
Now, that is an interesting one because I thought, and I still am unsure, I would have to admit openly, I thought it might be Big Ben. So prior to this, I did make the attempt to call Big Ben and say, did we share a room in Gothenburg? And he said, I don't know. He said, I was either you shared with me or Big Jazza shared with me. And I said, well, I thought it was either you or Ian Angus. So there lies the thing. And we would have to probably contact a few others just to clarify it. But at this moment in time, we'll stick to that because it's not a story, it's a truth.
This story shall continue.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Too many balls, Ali.
Technically, now I'm only talking about technically, what was the better goal, yours or John Hewitt's?
Well, obviously mine, Ali. I mean, anybody that's got any idea about football, he headed his into an empty net. I mean, you can't say that was technically brilliant. No, obviously mine. It was incredible how I managed to get it into the corner from that tight angle. John will obviously have another opinion, however. Yeah, that's where I'm sitting.
Did you study ahead of the game your immediate opponents?
I wouldn't say study, but we definitely had a dossier that Archie presented because he'd been to watch them a couple of times. So I knew because Johnny Metcalf was an extremely famous player at that point and an international sort of high recognition. And the other centre back at the time was a guy called Bonnet, who played, the two of them played as two central defenders. So I knew a little bit about him. I think he'd played about 4 or 5 times for Spain. So I knew a little bit about both of them. I wouldn't say it was totally in depth, but I knew roughly what to expect. And I knew roughly their traits. You know, Bonnet was more the defender, and Metcalf, although a massive man and top defender, could use the ball as well. So we had to sort of counteract that a little bit.
At the full-time whistle after extra time, and we've won the trophy, did you step on Sir Alex as he tumbled off the bench?
Well, obviously, I made him a massive sidestep just as I was about to tread on his back. So I think if we go back, there was 5 of us who trampled right across him. So I can't actually say that I did. I would never admit to doing that to Sir Alex, that's for sure. So I sidestepped as the other 4 trampled right across.
A very wise move.
Oh, very wise move.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most nervous, in your life, how nervous were you ahead of that game? On a scale of 1 to 10.
Well, for me, the thing on the Friday night prior to it was that, or the night prior to it, was that I'd never actually started a cup final. I'd come on as a sub in the Scottish Cup final prior to that, which is a different kind of thing. But to start it is monumental, certainly for somebody of my age at that time and only coming into the team a year or so prior. So I was extremely nervous. I must admit, I slept really well. It hit me a little bit when we got into the stadium and I had a look at the pitch and it all started to build up. And then in the tunnel, obviously then at that point. But for whatever reason, I always used to, and I had managed to work it out, as just to visualise my first touch. I was always just focusing on visualising the first time the ball would come up to me, which more often than not was defender at my back, ball coming up to me, I would control it and lay it off, and I was in the game. So if I could do that, it gave me that little bit of confidence to get in the game. So I would have to say I was definitely 9 out of 10 in terms of being nervous, but I think you have to have strategies to deal with it, and that's kind of how I felt.
Your scissor kick, was that your second or your third touch in the game? Can you remember?
Oh, I don't, to be honest. I know it led to the corner because it came over and I've hit it, and he's managed to touch it onto the bar, and then that led to the goal. So it may well have, but I mean, I really wouldn't know, to be honest. I wouldn't know.
All right. For the game itself, did you wear old and used football boots or a brand new pair of football boots?
Oh no, old and new. Yeah, I only used to get one pair a year.
Did you?
They used to last. They were Copa Mundials or World Cups. So you always felt better. You didn't ever want to go into a final in new boots. I would never have done that. So yeah, and plus trying to get into Terry Scott's cover to get a new pair was just about near impossible. So anyway, we made it with it. So yeah, no, I know 100% that it was the boots that I'd worn all season.
Okay. Did you quietly swear to yourself when Big Eck gave away the penalty?
Surprisingly not. You know, it was surprisingly not. No, it was all part of the game. You know, I mean, you know, I know it's a big impact on the result, but that's sometimes what happens with goalkeepers and defenders and whatever else. So, yeah, I was obviously disappointed, but I didn't actually. I just felt that we were still capable of winning the game. I've got to be honest. I didn't. I mean, well, I swear, I don't know if I did under my breath, but I just obviously remember the penalty, but I don't really remember being. I just thought, well, that's part of the game. That's it. Let's hope he misses it, and then we carry on, you know. And you're back in the game before you know it. So I'll say that.
All right. What time did you go to bed after the celebrations?
Well, I think quite a few actually didn't get to bed that night. I would have to say. I think one or two decided that they would like some aqua fun in the pool at a certain time as well. But anyway, I think I got to about 3 o'clock or whatever, and I was absolutely shattered, and decided to call it a night at that point and slept.
So is it true that Mark McGee was one of those who was very late to bed that night, and the punishment was that he had to go and meet the fans of the Sinclair?
Oh, I don't know if I could verify that. I think there might have been other. Well, in saying that, I've never heard that, to be honest. I'm just thinking. I know he was the one that had to go, and he was far from happy doing it. Yeah. But what the reason was for that, I'm not too sure, Ali. I couldn't clarify that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Did you swap shirts with the Real Madrid player after the game?
Yes, I did. I remember it. I swapped shirts with Ricardo Gallego, who was the number 6, who had played about 45 times for Spain. Yeah, I remember swapping shirts with him. He was a sitting midfielder, and I think he was probably the first that came up to me and I just swapped him. I thought, yeah, I'd like to have one of a strip, obviously.
Nice.
And that was, Ricardo Gallego. I remember. I've got number 6.
Cool. Very nice. Last question.
Yeah.
When you look back on the game, what is usually the first memory of the game that pops into your head?
The goal, I would have to say. It's always the goal. Yeah, it would be the first thing.
Which one?
Obviously, the one that I told you was technically the best. No, I do remember that, but the main thing is I remember the joy of lifting the trophy. Just the joy, not of me of lifting it, but the joy of Willie raising the trophy above his head is the thing that comes to mind. And I must admit, Johnny's celebration also comes into my mind pretty quickly, and Big Doogie grabs him. So that comes into my mind as well. So not specifically one, but certainly those two.
Sorry, I have to ask you one last time.
Yeah, no problem.
Just before you went to lift the trophy, did you have it in your mind, the technique of how you were going to lift that trophy? Or was it just off the cuff?
I think I was a few down the line, so I had to have a look at what the techniques were like prior. So I had a wee bit of information before I lifted it. I knew I just wanted to lift it with two hands so that I wouldn't drop it and lift it up. So by the time I got a hold of it, there had been a few cheers prior to that. So I don't think anybody will remember me lifting it. I do though.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
A pleasure, Ali. A pleasure. All
Love
the
to
best.
see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Hi, Eric. There you go. Eric Black's quickfire question and answer session. I really, really hope you enjoyed that. Honestly, I had such a laugh with him. And then after the interview yesterday afternoon, so I text Brian Gunn and I was like, mate, seriously, who did you room with when you were in Gothenburg? Because Eric can't remember. And he's like, honestly, he says, I can't remember. I've absolutely no idea. Honestly, I was howling. They don't know who roomed with each other. So funny. Right. Before we get back to your comments, shall we just remind ourselves of this? I think this is really cool. This is the team that started against Real Madrid. Who will ever forget? Jim Leighton in goal, a back four. John McMaster had to go to left back. Doug Rugby had to go to right back because obviously Stuart Kennedy was missing. Big Eck and the skipper in the middle. And then Peter Weir, who was absolutely sensational that night. Neil Simpson, the wonderful, the fantastic, the absolutely lovable, and the late Neil Cooper, who will always be remembered by us. And Wee Gordon on the right-hand side, who also tore strips off Real Madrid, with Eric and Mark McGee playing up front. What a team. The Real Madrid team, full of international superstars. Johnny Metgood, who will ever forget him? What a right foot he had on him. Uli Stielike, who only a few months before played in a World Cup final for West Germany. Santillana, what a player he was. And if you can remember Juanito, oh my goodness, just a team full of superstars. But they had absolutely no idea how to cope with Aberdeen on the night. Right, let's start opening up your comments again. Got plenty more to come. Right. Where are we? Okay. Alexander Wallace has said, hi Ali, had problems getting connected. Glad we've secured Premiership status. Let's ensure we finish the best of the rest. So I hope you're on okay, mate, and there's not too many issues. Just very quickly, I have to wish Adam Cran a very happy birthday. Adam, I hope you have an absolutely brilliant day. What a day to have a birthday. Marcy Clark has said, I wish Aberdeen was still 100% Scottish as they were in 1983, as we're the last team to win a European trophy with a Scottish team. That will never happen again. Hopefully we get the 3 points against Hibs. Right. Sorry. Just have to get back up to where you are. Sandra McPherson has said, young lads win Gothenburg Day and then the Aurora. It's a sign, Ali. It's a sign. Come on, you Reds. Kilted Warrior said, good evening, Dandies. I think it will be a 2-2 draw tomorrow, as not really to play for and away from home. Scott W. said, 41 years since the greatest ever achievement by a Scottish team in Europe. It's mad to think we're still the last team to beat Real in a European final. Marcy Clark came back to say, 1982 we beat Ipswich in the UEFA Cup. We destroyed a team who won the UEFA Cup in 1981, remember. Ipswich had never lost a home game in a European tie at home, so 3-1 at Pittodrie was a fantastic result. Barry Cooler said, still think our achievement in 83 was bigger than Celtic's European Cup win. We beat two of the biggest teams in Europe. Barry Cole said Peter Weir was unplayable against Ipswich the night he arrived as an Aberdeen player. Susan Casey is on. Hi, Susan. I was just 4 years old in 1983. We stood on the Stonehaven Road to see them go into the open air bus with my I Love Eric Black badge on. Alexander Wallace said Peter Weir, a man of the time, has not been recognised nearly enough for his contribution. I have to say, behind Willie, Peter Weir was my second absolute all-time hero. And can I tell you, he is the loveliest guy you will ever meet, as they all are. And I mean this. They are all absolute gentlemen. They're fantastic. All of them. Absolutely fantastic people. The Musical Box said, I watched the Gothenburg game on a big screen in my local because I couldn't go. I was the only Dons fan there, and when we won, people congratulated me like I did it all personally. Scott W said, even now, I still get a wee tear in my eye and a lump in my throat when I see McGee's cross for Hewitt waiting in the middle. A phenomenal moment in world sporting history. Do you know, it is so funny, and I've said this so many times on the channel before, and I don't know what it is, but I also, I'm getting it now, I also get goosebumps every time I see that goal. And it's an incredible feeling. You know, I was very lucky to be in Gothenburg, which I'll come to in just a moment. You know, I was only 10 years old when I was there, but I still have very, very vivid recollections of the trip. And it's like what I said to you before, I've said a couple of weeks ago, that I use these games now as a means to remember my late mum and my late dad, you know, who just went out of their way to make sure that we were lucky enough to go to all these games. And I remember years and years ago, I actually remember at the time wondering why my brother Peter didn't come, why he wasn't allowed to come. He was only, and then I kind of figured it all out. He was only 7 years old at the time, so mum and dad thought he was a little bit too young. So he stayed home with our neighbours. And I remember sort of, as I grew up, it really troubled me that he never got to Gothenburg. So I thought I wanted to do something for him. So for his 30th birthday many moons ago, I was able to get a replica Cup Winners' Cup final shirt signed by every single member of the squad, including Sir Alex Ferguson. And I framed it for him, and I got John Hewitt to personally sign a black and white print of his winning goal against Real Madrid, which we placed at the bottom of the frame underneath the shirt, and we gave it to him for his 30th birthday. And he still has it hanging in his bedroom to this day. So it's just, you know, there are so many memories of Gothenburg. We'll get to the home video in just a moment, and I'll talk you through it. Barry Cole says, listen to the English commentary with Brian. Brian Moore was his name. Can't remember the surname, but Ian St. John, you hear shouting yes when Hewitt scored. It's just, again, one of the most fantastic pieces of commentary. Scott W said, these lads were already legends, and then Gothenburg just sent them into the stratosphere. Then we beat the European Cup winners to cement the greatness. I know. Paul Donaldson has said, just a bit too young to remember Gothenburg, but the first trophy I remember was the League Cup against Hibs and Eric Black scoring twice. Barry Coe came back to say, remember taking the following day off school and being down at Pittodrie. It was packed out the door and we got onto the pitch. Great, great memories. Alexander Wallace said, Eric's dad used to sit close to me and my dad in the stand. Great company. Brilliant. John Grant said, what a top bloke Eric is. I remember him from when he lived in Ash Vale. Such a shame his career ended too with a back injury. Michael McCafferty has said, hi Ali, enjoying the show. The wife is loving it too. She's a big fan. Hello, Mrs. McCafferty. Hope you're well. Barry Cooler says, just remember the beach end being rammed full of folk. Oh, brilliant. Marcy Clark said, at 6 years old, I was on the St. Clair in 1983. It's something I will never forget. Fantastic. Kevin Spencer said, I still think if Peter Weir hadn't been injured, we would have retained the trophy in 1984. Oh, honestly, it's one of the biggest disappointments ever as a kid, losing to Porto. Transmission GGB says, Weir takes out 4 Madrid players with one pass to McGee to get plenty of space for that cross to Hewitt. Marcy Clark says, the St. Clair was a bounce to Gothenburg and back to Aberdeen. I'll never, ever forget it. John Grant says, remember Johnny Hewitt's goal was even rated better than Trevor Francis's winning goal officially. Barry Cole says, I bought the white retro kit from the shop recently. Nice. Right, so that's all the comments that have come in for just now, but we'll leave it open. Still got plenty to get through. So let me clear that. There we go. Let me clear that. There we go, because I still have a couple of bits that I want to bring you. So let me find them. That one, and then one last thing to go in before we finish off tonight. There it is. Okay. Right, so let's get to this home movie that I promised you. So the story behind this is my dad took his old Cine camera with us. This is us on our way to Gothenburg after leaving Dice. That's me predicting a 5-0 win for the Dons. And sat next to me is my best friend, who remains one of my best friends to this day, Ewan Taylor. There's a nice shot of the plane. And my dad was lucky enough to be able to sit in the jump seat. Can you imagine that today? Sitting in the jump seat. So he got into the cockpit and filmed us coming up to the coast of Sweden. This is us actually landing at Gothenburg Airport. And then getting taxied in. And in just a moment, you'll see us all departing the aeroplane. Follow me. We certainly did. So here's all the fans getting off the flight. Look at those kits. Look at those hats. Who would have known as we stepped off that plane what was about to unfold? So that's me coming down the stairs with my pal Ewan, dressed in my retro... Oh, no, my retro kit was underneath my jumper. My scarf, my wee teddy bear. Here's the fans inside Gothenburg city centre. That's me right at the front with my wee cap on and a brown jacket holding the teddy bear. All the fans congregated. Some of the banners were just absolutely sensational. So funny. And that's when the rain started. And we managed to get ourselves into some sort of shelter where most of the fans did. So that's the end of the video. So I thought I'd bring you this. Comes courtesy of Brian Gunn. These are Brian's very own personal photographs that he took on the day. Well, this was actually the day before the final. So thank you, Brian, for allowing me to show everybody these pictures. And obviously that was the night of the game itself. So there you go. Let me just see if there's any other comments come in. Oh, aye. Right. Alexander Wallace said, Ali, I agree with those sentiments. My brother went into the army and missed the games. I went with my dad. Delighted that so many of you enjoyed that video. Dave Sharp has said, rest in peace, Tati. Barry Kohler said, Doug Rugby never lets a Diego by. So there's a little funny story to me getting Neil Cooper's autograph for that shirt. So I was working for Setanta at the time, and I only needed to get his and Gordon Strachan's. Those were the only two that were missing. So I was able to get Gordon Strachan's when he became the manager of Celtic. So I got really lucky there. So with Tati, he was acting as a pundit on an Aberdeen game for Setanta. So I used to always travel to it for 2 or 3 years between 2004 and 2007 before I went to Singapore. I don't think I missed a game, both home and away, because I used to go with like the Setanta reporters and the film crew and all these guys. So I never missed a game. So I took my shirt, went up into the television gantry. Tati was sitting there, and he took one look at me and he went, oh, here he is. Poor man's Robbie Williams. Honestly. Oh, what a character he was. He was absolutely sensational, Tati. Oh, God, he's so missed, Right, so after the game, I thought this is something else that I thought you might be interested in. These are the post-match quotes from both managers. So we'll start with the gaffer. He said, we slaughtered them. The best thing for us was the half-time whistle. We lost our way a bit when Juanito got the equaliser. But afterwards, my only concern was the game staying at 1-1 in extra time and going to penalties to decide the outcome. Real Madrid looked as though they would have been happy with that situation. However, we wanted to settle the game, and John Hewitt certainly did in great style. the late Alfredo Di Stefano, who obviously came up with that famous quote. But this is what he said. Aberdeen were physically stronger than us, so the conditions suited them better. The players who were most important to them were Gordon Strachan and Peter Weir. Weir played quietly in the first half, but obviously Ferguson had a word of advice to him during the interview. He finished off by saying he created many problems and sent over a few inviting crosses that may have even prevented the game going to extra time. The late, great Alfredo Di Stefano, who of course said that very famous quote about us, which I understand he said during his press conference. So it's my understanding that what actually happened when he gave the famous quote about the tradition and the soul and all that sort of stuff, he said it during the press conference after the game. And then he said those words, those immortal words now, and then stood up and left. That's my understanding. Now, don't take it for gospel, but that is my understanding how that all happened. So when I was writing my book, the old European Nights book, and I was doing my research, I was reliably informed by 2 or 3 old-time journalists who were there that that's how that kind of all happened. So let's see if there's any more comments in. How are we doing? We've done nearly 45 minutes, which is fantastic. Graham Barron is here. Hi, Graham. How you doing? Thanks for jumping on, mate. He says, hi, Ali. Late to the party. Happy Gothenburg Day, dandies. Barry Cooler said, I had a shoot signature book and Steve Cowan was dating and later married a lassie that stayed on the corner of my street. I got all the autographs, but I can't find the book anywhere. Dig deeper, Barry. Dig deeper. Alexander Wallace, really enjoyed the video. Thank you, mate. I'm glad you did. I've actually got a lot more footage from just that, which I'll post in the next few days. It's of us actually coming home from Gothenburg. So on the flight coming home, and trust me, it's the scenes are brilliant. The Mad Ferret is so good. Peter Weir lays on more balls than Emmanuel. So, so to put that into context, because I remember reading that and having absolutely no idea, and I asked my father, and he also claimed that he had no idea, with his tongue placed firmly in his cheek. So Emmanuel was a famous porn star. Hence why the quote, Peter Weir lays on more balls than Emmanuel. Just brilliant. A Transmission GGB says it's the longest run in a European competition by any Scottish team, that 2 seasons in the Cup Winners' Cup and the Super Cup thrown in from 82 to 84. Delighted you're enjoying the show. Duncan Wright has said, I was in the army that night, stuck in a hole in North Germany, so gutted. A big NATO exercise meant a leave ban. Oh, God. A fellow soldier told me, Dunk, the Dons have done it. You have gone and won it. Oh, brilliant. Another thing that sticks in my mind from the trip, and I swear to you, I swear that this is a true story. And forgive me if you've heard it before, but obviously we've got lots and lots of new followers on the channel. So if you haven't heard it, I swear this is true. So my father organised a bus to take us from the hotel to the ground. In fact, he organised a bus to take us from the airport into the city centre, and it was the same bus that we used in the entire trip. And that bus amazed me because there were televisions in the bus. I'd never seen a television in a bus, and I was completely awestruck by a television in a bus. Anyway, I remember getting to the ground. We were quite late getting to the ground. So by the time we walked in, the teams were already lined up. So we missed the teams walking out. And our first vantage point, I couldn't see anything. The game kicked off, Eric Black hits the bar, and I couldn't see because there was a fan stood in front of me, big lump. And I remember screaming to my dad that I couldn't see. Now, we were trying to take shelter at the time because obviously it was absolutely chucking it down. So we were in the bottom section of the Ullevi Stadium, which was completely open to the elements. So my dad decided, so at that time we were sort of stood right on the halfway line. So he decided to shift us further down and then over to the right. So we then stood right in front, or sort of parallel with the 18-yard box of So if you can imagine the TV cameras, first half, Real Madrid kicking to the right. So we were right in parallel with that 18-yard line, Jim Leighton's 18-yard line, and just got absolutely soaked to the skin. I remember my mum going out and then coming back in with these, honestly, they felt like marquees, these rain covers that we all put on, garish yellow rain covers. But to be fair, they did help. So from there, we got the perfect vantage point. So the game goes on, blah, blah, blah. We all celebrated after the game. So we came out of the stadium it must have been a good 45 minutes after the game. 45 minutes to an hour, give or take. And this is the moment I'll never forget. So we came out and we're going, sort of heading towards the bus to take us back to the hotel. And a taxi pulls up and a set of bagpipes came flying out of the taxi first, landed in a puddle on the deck between the pavement and the taxi. And then this guy fell out of the taxi, and he fell out so unceremoniously that he ended up with his legs behind his head, with his kilt over the top of his head. I swear to God. So my mother, she grabbed Ewan and I and kind of hid us from what had just been exposed. And my dad and the guys that were with us, they picked him up, and I swear to you, these are the words that he said, and I've never forgotten them as long as I live. He said, "What time is kickoff?" He missed the game. I kid you not, this dude missed the game. He was so drunk, but let me tell you, upon getting the news that the game was over and that Aberdeen had won, he sobered up so quickly. And it was the talk of the adults in the bus going back to the hotel that this poor guy missed the game. Honest to God, how do you do that? I've never forgotten it. Let's just see if there's any more comments come in before we finish off tonight. So if you're enjoying the show, give it a wee like. I'd be really delighted if you'd like the show. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed, come and join us. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It's just a click of a button. We are edging closer to 3,550, and I really want to try and achieve that. So please consider it. I'd be absolutely thrilled. Right, so so many of you now talking about Emmanuel. I bet you are. Channel 5 porn back in the day. Do you remember the little red triangle in the corner? Oh dear. Musical Box says, glad we no longer need the aerial. William Davidson said, my dad had a bag with half a bottle of whiskey when we arrived at the ground. He wasn't allowed in with it, so he hid the bottle in a hedge and saved the bag for a hat. Brilliant. So good. Samantha Reed is here. Hi, Samantha. How are you? Great show, Ali. I wasn't born until the year after, and even I get goosebumps every time I see that goal. My dad was at the semi, but got called offshore for the final, so he couldn't go. He was absolutely gutted. Oh, no. William Davidson came back to say the bottle of whiskey was still there at the end, much to my dad's surprise and no doubt delight, William. Superb. Hey, Barry Cooler said, I'll give the channel a share on the groups that I'm in. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm just trying to think of any other stories that I've got from Gothenburg. I remember we got back to the hotel and we were all in one room. So there were, let me think now. So there was our neighbour Joe, there was our bank manager Bill. So there was Joe, Bill, Mum, Dad, me and Ewan. Aye, so there were 6 of us, and we all got put into this really small hotel room because there was an issue with the booking, which eventually my dad was able to sort out. But there was only one double bed inside this room. So Ewan and I got into the bed, we were allowed to get in, and I think my mum slept beside us, and we slept for, it could have only been for an hour and a half. It couldn't have been for long, because I remember going back to the airport feeling absolutely exhausted. And when we got to the airport, it was rammed full of Aberdeen fans. Because if I remember correctly, the flights back were round about 6 o'clock in the morning local time, give or take. Because I remember playing football with a group of lads inside the airport and getting invited to play football with these group of lads, which is also a memory I've never forgotten. And then when we got home, I remember going straight back to the house. We picked up my little brother. We went to the school, Newborough Mathers Primary School. We let Mrs. Galloway, who was my former head teacher, know that I was having a day off and that my brother was having a day off, and that we all basically made our way into town to go to Pittodrie, which again has all been captured by my father on his old Cine camera, which I will bring to you probably in the review show on Monday night. Right, guys, we're just about done because we've done nearly an hour. Rob Clark has said, fantastic memories. I was just a few months older than you, Ali. Unfortunately, we never got to Gothenburg, but a few days later we got to the supporters rally and hold the trophy. Brilliant. Alexander Wallace has said, Ali Beg, you are the luckiest guy to have experienced this with your family. Mate, I pinch myself nearly every day that I was lucky enough to go to Gothenburg. It just makes me think how lucky I am to have had the parents that I've had. You know, that dad took us to all the most amazing Aberdeen games. So lucky, so blessed. Machiavelli said, I actually thought the game was going to be postponed before it started. It was torrential. So apparently what was going to happen was that if the game was going to get called off, they were going to play it on the Thursday night. That was the initial thinkings from UEFA. But thankfully, if I remember correctly, by just looking at old TV footage, they had most parts of the pitch covered, and they were able to get, which was able to sort of protect the grass during the game and before. Transmission GGB has said, bizarre that year Aberdeen were the only British team left in Europe after the quarter-finals, when basically the English teams dominated. Graham Barron came back to say, brilliant memories of that night. I was watching the Real Madrid v Bayern game midweek, and the commentators were creaming themselves about the talent on show. The Dons beat the both. My dad's comment. Sousa said, went to Pittodrie too. I think all the kids did. Schools were empty that day. Right, guys, that's us. We're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for watching. We've done nearly an hour. I hope you've really enjoyed today's show. So don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe, as I said. And thank you so much to all of you who have recently signed up to the membership scheme on ABTV as well. I'm very, very grateful to all of you. So all that's left to say, because obviously the Dons are playing tomorrow, is the very best of luck to the lads. I hope, you put our recent record to bed, that you put on a decent performance, that you start the game positively, on the front foot. Let's not start games like how we have done in the past few weeks, where we've been really slow out of the traps. Don't let them settle in. And let's do what Peter Leven has asked us to do, which is to basically finish top of the bottom six. So get yourselves into that position. And then we've got 2 games left. 2 games left. Can you believe it? Guys, take good care of yourselves. And I will see you again on Monday night for the review. And again, we'll combine the review with some more Gothenburg stuff. Take good care. I'll speak to you soon. Stand free.